Let's share the screen. So we will continue our discussion on compact sets. So last time we saw the Heine-Borel theorem, which actually enables a complete characterization of compact sets with respect to the Euclidean metric. Correct? So let's just recall quickly what did the Heine-Borel theorem say. It said that given any closed and bounded interval on the real line, that is a compact set with respect to the Euclidean metric. Correct? Is that okay? Do you see the screen at your end?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. All right. So with this, we were trying to summarize a compactness with respect to the Euclidean metric. Sorry, where is it? Oh, I don't seem to have the right file. Yeah, give me a minute. There is another file, I think, which is which needs to be open. So anyways, in the meanwhile, let's recall what is that we were doing. We said that if E is a subset of Rn, the Euclidean n space, then there are three equivalent characterizations of compact sets, which are the following. Yeah, so let me open. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't get that. Doesn't matter. Let me open the relevant file from this. Okay, so this is where I wanted to say, yeah. So given E a subset of the Euclidean space, then the following statements are all equivalent is the claim, yeah. The first one is that E is closed and bounded. The second, that E is compact. And the third statement says that every infinite subset of E necessarily has a limit point in the set E. So we were trying to provide a proof to this theorem, and we noticed that we had already seen 1 implies 2 and 2 implies 3 also. So all it remains in order to complete the proof of this theorem is to establish that statement 3 implies statement 1. Yeah. So we were trying to do this, and we are still not done. So let's just quickly recall this proof, and let's fix that. Yeah. Okay. So so we want to say that 3 implies 1. Let me just open this with respect to Zernal. Yeah, I'm sorry. Annotate PDF, and let me just open this file. Yes. Let's see. Yes. So I think now I have the right file with me. Yeah. I'm so sorry about it. Okay. So let's just recall up till what point we had done this. Yeah. Sorry. I would be careful next time onwards. So recall, we are trying to prove 3 implies 1. The statement 3 says that every infinite subset S of E has a limit point in the set E, and statement 1 is that A is closed and bounded. So let us assume that 3 is true, and we are required to prove statement 1. So let if possible, on the contrary, we assume that E is not closed. Then we did some analysis last time to arrive at a contradiction, and that would show that contradicts the statement 3, and that would show that we are fine, right? So are there any questions so far? in this part? If not, then I would like to show the part that statement 3 also implies that the set E is bounded. Is this okay with everybody so far? Any questions, please ask. Okay, so shall I assume there are no further questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So we are trying to show that if every infinite subset of E has a limit point in E, then E is bounded. So suppose this is not the case, so much like the proof last time, we will say that if E is not bounded, then what do you do? Yeah. So if E is not bounded, then what do? We again try to construct an infinite subset of E with no limit points in E. Yeah? So that would complete the proof of this theorem, right? So what do I say? So if E is not bounded, so here is what is my claim. Then there is a sequence of points in E. There is a sequence of points xn in E such that the absolute value of xn is bigger than n, and this is true for each positive integer n. Correct? Yeah, everybody is with me on
Yes,
this?
ma'am.
Yes? Okay. So now what are we going to do? I am going to say, so here is my candidate for an infinite subset of E which has no limit point in E. Yeah, so I am going to collect all these points xn such that, you know, xn are in the set E and the absolute value of xn is bigger than n, and this is for each n bigger than for in positive integers, right? Yeah. So, so the hard work here is to show that S is an infinite subset of E. Yeah, the fact that S is sitting inside E is evident from the construction. First, one needs to show that S is infinite. So this is a subset of E such that S has no limit points in fact, the entire real line. Okay. So if we are able to do that, then we would, you know, this contradicts that statement 3 holds and we will be done. Is that okay? Does everybody see that? Yes. So this little thing, I will leave you to check. I will leave this as an exercise for you. Does everybody understand what is to be done here?
Ma'am, can you please repeat?
Yeah. So, you know, all I'm trying to say is, see, last time we proved that, we were trying to prove, remember, we are trying to prove 3 implies 2. So we said that let's start with that statement 3 is true, and we say we are trying to prove that E is closed. So we started with let if possible, on the contrary, E is not closed. And then, you know, in the process, using this assumption, we constructed an infinite subset S of E, which has no limit points in E. Yeah, remember what was the set S in that case? where is it? Let me see. It's right here. Yeah. So S is xn's. Xn's were constructed in some manner. Yeah. Correct. So the thing that we showed was that the first thing was that S is an infinite set. There is only one limit point x naught, and that does not belong to the set E. Yeah. So that showed that statement 3 is false, which cannot be the case, and hence we are done. Right. Now, in order to show that E is bounded, I am saying let's take the same approach. We say that let if possible, on the contrary, the set E is not bounded. Then saying that E is not bounded guarantees us existence of a sequence of points xn in E such that for each n, the absolute value of xn is at least n, right? Now let's collect all these points, and I'm calling this the set S. Now, what remains to be checked is to show that S is an infinite set which has no limit points in R. So this requires a proof. So I'm saying I would like each one of you to check this. We are not doing this again. I wouldn't say again, but this is much like the sort of the proof that we saw last time. Yeah. So, for example, what if the set, so in order to prove that set S is infinite, what if the set S is finite? Can that happen? Can that happen that the set S is finite?
No.
No, right? You have to give a reason, right? You have to use the fact that the absolute value of xn is bigger than n for each n, right? So at some stage, this would be violated, correct? Is that
Yes.
okay? Yes?
Yes.
Now, so you have to provide an argument, little argument, yeah? So that is something for you to check. And the second statement is to show that the set S has no limit points in R.
Ma'am, can we say that from the definition of convergence to positive infinity?
Yeah, you can also use that if you like, but this it should be a logical sort of string of arguments. If you want to appeal to that, that is also fine.
Okay,
Yeah. So your argument, for example, will say, maybe if at all it goes through, that the positive infinity is a point, a limit point for this set. You have to show that there are no limit points in R. So you have to show that's the only limit point. Correct? Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So is everybody with me on this? Can I leave this for you to check on your own? Any questions, please ask. So is this bit okay with everybody present here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. So we move on to the next thing. So it's again sort of an application of the theorem that we just finished. So this is called as the Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem for sets. Yeah, remember we did a Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem for sequences. So what does it say? It says that every infinite bounded subset of R, in fact, it is true in the Euclidean n space. So I'll just write the statement for n Rn. So the proof is much the same, has a limit point in Rn. So why should one believe this statement? So let's see. So let E subset of, I'll just write it for R, the same proof with the relevant changes works for Rn. Be an infinite bounded subset. Be infinite, be an infinite and bounded subset of R, of real numbers. So the fact that E is bounded shows that E must be contained in some interval. Yeah, so minus m to m for some m positive. Yeah, so there is always a positive real number m such that E is entirely contained in the interval minus m to m. Right? All I'm using here is the fact that E is bounded. Correct? Now, so I'm going to use the statement, the following statement. Yeah, so I'm going to recall by Heine-Borel theorem that the interval minus m to m being a closed and bounded interval of the real line is a compact set, is compact, and E, so this would imply that E is an infinite subset of a compact set. So by the theorem that we just did, part 3 implies 1, it follows that E has a limit point in Rn. Is this okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there yes for everybody present here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So, this is all I wanted to say about the compact sets for now, and we will revisit this topic of compactness little later when we discuss continuous functions. But for now, I would like to sort of discuss something else, unless there are some other questions. So are there any questions? Okay, so believe no, there are none. So let's move on. So the next topic that I want to discuss is the concept of connectedness. Okay, what does it mean to say that a set is connected? Yeah. So for example, I'll try to draw something. Yeah. So here is an example of a subset of R2. So does this picture look like connected? Is that a yes? And let's contrast with something else. So what I've shaded here, this is my set here. So does this picture look like it's connected? So this picture doesn't look like connected, the one that I draw later. So how do we make this notion precise? Yeah. So it is sort of a little bit intricate than what I drew here. We will try to sort of fix all of these little slowly. So it turns out that it is a lot easier to say that a set is not connected rather than saying that it is connected. Yeah. So we will see why. Yeah. But before that, let's see the following. Yeah. Let's note down the following definition. That of separated sets. Yeah. So XT is a metric space. So here is a definition. So let XT be a metric space two subsets A and B of X, so of this metric space X, are said to be separated if both, so what is this mission? The closure of A intersect B and what else? And A intersect the closure of B, both these sets are empty. See, what is this saying? No point of A is a limit point of B and vice versa. And no point of B is a limit point of A. Yeah? So you remember this, this notation closure, this was introduced in the practice problem set that was handed out, I think almost a week back. Everybody remembers that notation? Or maybe I'll just write that clarification here just in case you don't. So no point of A, we will see examples in a moment, but no point of A is a limit point of B and vice versa. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. So let me sort of finish these definitions and then we will see examples. Okay, so having defined separated sets, let's go on. Here is another definition. A set E, again, XT is a metric space and E is a subset of X, is said to be disconnected or not connected if one can write E as the union A union B of two non-empty separated sets. Yeah, so E is A union B, where A and B are non-empty separated sets. And finally, a set that is not disconnected is called as connected. Yeah, so let me just write that here before we see some examples. a set that is not disconnected is, sorry, I misspelled it, so let me just correct it. A set that is not disconnected is called a connected set. So, in terms of separated sets, what is it? So, E subset of a metric space XD is said to be connected if E cannot be written as the union of two non-empty separated sets. Yeah? So E is not a union of two non-empty separated sets. Yeah. So let me try to sort of illustrate these definitions with respect to some examples. Yeah. So let's look at the open intervals. So let's stick to the real line with the Euclidean metric, and let's look at the open interval 1, 2 and the open interval 2, 5. Yeah. So if you look at the open interval 1, 2, what are all the limit points of the open interval 1, 2 of this set?
The entire interval.
Entire interval, and is there something else?
1 and 2.
And the endpoints 1 and 2. Yeah. So, for example, the closure of this set would be the closed interval 1, 2. Yeah. And likewise, the closure of the open interval 2, 5 would be the closed interval 2, 5. Yeah. So if you look at these two sets, they have the limit point 2 in common. Yeah. So let me look at this. Yeah. So let's introduce some notation. Let A is this and let B is this. So we are working with the Euclidean metric unless otherwise stated. So the closure of A, we all agreed, is the closed interval AB, and the closure of B is the closed interval 2, 5, right? So there is a limit point 2 in common, which is a limit. So 2 is a limit point of the set A, as well as 2 is a limit point of the set B. We say that, as far as the notion of connectedness is concerned, there is some space between them in the sense that no limit point of one of these intervals is actually contained in the other. Yeah? So if you look at the closure of A intersect B, what can you say? That's an empty set, correct? And so is A intersect the closure of B. Yeah? No limit point of A is a point of B, and no point of so no point of A is a limit point of B, and no point of B is a limit point of A. Yeah. So in the definition, in view of the definition that we introduce, we would say that the sets A and B in this example are separated. Yes. Yeah, shall I say that one more time? The closure of open interval 1, 2 is disjoint from the open interval 2, 5, and the closure of the open interval 2, 5 does not intersect the open interval 1, 2. Yes. So over here, please note that in this example, to begin with, A and B are disjoint sets. Is that okay? Everybody sees this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now let's take one more example. Let's take one more example. Let's take A to B, open 1, close 2, and B to B, open 2, 5. Now, what can we say? What is the closure of A? The closure of A is again the closed interval 1, 2. Yeah, and the closure of B is so even though the sets A and B are disjoint in example 2 also, however, what can we say? There is a point, namely 2 of A, which is a limit point of B. So the sets A and B in this example are not separated. Yeah. So the upshot of these two examples is separated sets are disjoint, but disjoint sets need not be separated.
Ma'am, the last line, it will be not equals to
Sorry,
5.
correct. This is non-empty. Yeah. Thank you so much for correcting me. Yeah. I said so, but did not write it correctly. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, can you please repeat the last line you said?
So all I said was, here are two examples. Both A and B are both disjoint. But in example 1, A and B are separated. But example 2, A and B are not separated. Yeah. So all I'm trying to say is, if you go back to the definition of separated sets, where is it? Here. Yeah. Then, if A and B are separated, then A and B are disjoint, right? Does everybody agree with me on this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So separated sets are of course disjoint, but disjoint sets need not be separated, as the examples that we considered show.
Okay, ma'am.
Correct? Is that okay? Yeah, that's all I wanted to highlight. Sure? Yeah, is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So let's see some examples now to highlight the concept of connectedness and disconnectedness. Yeah, now that we have some bit of understanding about separated sets. Yeah. So let's consider E. Let's consider the union of these two sets. Yeah. So it is the interval 1 to 5 except the point 2. Right? Yeah. So, anytime you are given that, given a set and you are sort of asked to investigate whether the set is connected or not, the way the connectedness is defined, it is a lot easier to say that a set is not connected rather than saying that it is connected. Yeah. So let's look at, for example, this example here, E. Yeah. So when do we say a set is disconnected? If you go back to the definition, we say that a set is disconnected if the set E is the union of two non-empty separated sets. Yeah. So in this example, I say that over here, the set E is disconnected because I can write E as the union of two disjoint separated sets, where A is the interval 1, 2 and B is the interval 2, 5. And furthermore, A and B are non-empty, evidently, and A and B are separated as we just discussed. So the set E in this example is disconnected because E is the union of two non-empty separated sets. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Yeah. Somebody had a question? Any questions, please ask. Okay. So let's look at the example 2 now. You know, in the example 2, I had A and B as, so A was open interval 1, 2, close to, B was open interval 2, 5. Yeah. So let's look at that. Let's do that. So A was open interval 1, close 2, and B was open interval 2 and close and open 5. Yeah. So these are not separated as we discussed above. So let's just recall that are not separated since there's a point of A which is a limit point of B. So this is non-empty. Yeah. So this set is singleton 2. Yeah. And let's look at the union. What is the union A union B in this example? So the union A union B is the interval. Correct? 1 to 5, right? Which better not qualify as a disconnected set, right? Isn't it? Now, whatever vague notion of connectedness we have, we would like an interval to be connected. Yeah, we will see that little later. Okay, is everybody with me up till this point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Let's look at one more example. Let's look at the set of rational numbers. So the question is the set of rational numbers connected? So I claim that the set of rational numbers is disconnected. It is not connected. Yeah? So in order to substantiate my claim, what is it I have to show? I have to show that the set of rational numbers can be written as union of two non-empty separated sets. Yeah. So remember, what is that one? So I claim that. So let me write down what are we trying to show. We will show that the set of rational numbers is not connected. It is disconnected. Right? So remember, this means that, this exactly means that the set of rational numbers can be written as the union of two non-empty separated sets. Correct? Yeah. Okay. So would somebody like to help me out? What should be a candidate for the set A and what should I take as the set B? So hint is, see, I have to write Q as the union of two non-empty separated sets. A and B are separated. So the first thing is that A and B are disjoint, right? So do you want to suggest something now? Suggestions? Okay, here's a hint. Yeah. So I say that let's pick a number which is not rational. Yeah. So for example, square root of 2 is not rational, right? And then, you know, I can construct the set A to be all the rational numbers which are strictly less than root 2, and B to be all the rational numbers which are bigger than root 2. So clearly the set of rational numbers is A union B. Is that correct? Everybody with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So so there is no uniqueness here. You may put some. You may write the set of rational numbers as the union of some other non-empty separated sets, right? So this is one particular choice, right? So now I need to, so I agree that the set of rational numbers is a disjoint union of A and B. Yeah? A union B gives the set of rational numbers and A does not intersect the set B. Now, how do we verify the claim that A and B are separated? What are the limit points of the set A? Yeah. So what are all the limit points of
Real numbers which are less than root 2.
so less than as well as equal to, right? Even root 2 is a limit point of the set A.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So, so the closure of A, I don't even need the exact description of limit points. It just suffices to note that the set of limit points, A union the set of limit points, which is the closure of A, is contained in this interval. Everybody agrees with me? And likewise, the closure of the set B is contained in the interval root 2 to positive infinite. Is that okay? Is that okay? And
Yes, ma'am.
hence, No point
Yes.
of A is a limit point of B, and no point of B is a limit point of A. And hence A and B are separated. Correct? Yeah, is that all right with everybody present here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay. So let's move on to the next example. So anyways, what is the conclusion of all of this? The conclusion is that the set of rational numbers is disconnected. So we saw an example of a disconnected set. We saw two examples of a disconnected set. Let's see an example of a connected set. Okay. So let's say, so let's consider E to be open interval AB. Yeah. Some real number A strictly less than the real number B, and I consider this open interval, and the claim is that this is a connected set. Yeah. So as I said, it is a lot wiser to consider disconnected sets. So we will say that suppose E is not connected, and try to do some analysis and see where that lands us. Correct? So suppose that the set E is not connected. Okay. So by definition means that I should be able to write E as a union of two non-empty separated sets. Yeah. So then E is A union B, where A and B are non-empty separated sets. This is let's just fix this. So I'm writing E as A union B, where A and B are non-empty separated sets. All right, wonderful. Okay. So since A and B are non-empty, I'm going to pick elements in A and B. Yeah. So let X belongs to A and Y belongs to B. Now A and B are separated. In particular, A and B are disjoint. So clearly, X is different from Y. Yeah. So the order property of the real numbers tells us either X is strictly greater than Y or X is strictly less than Y. Let us suppose that X is strictly less than Y. Yeah. The other case is similar. Yeah. Now X belongs to the set A, Y belongs to the set B. Yeah, X and Y both belong to E, which is an interval. So, any point which is in between X and Y also belongs to E, implies that the entire closed interval XY is contained in E. Since E is an interval, it follows that the entire closed interval X to Y is contained in the set E. Yeah. Yeah. Is that okay? Everybody with me so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. See, what are we trying to do? We are trying to establish, our claim is that E is connected. We are working under the assumption that suppose not. And let's see. Yeah, we are trying to analyze this. So suppose not, then E is the union of two non-empty separated sets, calling them A and B. And we pick points X in A, Y in B. So this gives us an interval XY in the set E. Now let me do the following. Yeah. So let's consider, let's set F to be, another set. What is it? So let's consider A intersect X comma Y. Yeah, so somewhere I have A, somewhere B, and somewhere X, and somewhere Y. Yeah. So let's consider this set. I'm giving it a name, A intersect X, Y, Y. Yeah. So the first claim is that the set F is non-empty. Why is that? Everybody sees that? Why is the set F non-empty?
Ma'am, because X belongs to the
Because
set.
the point X belongs to X. Very nice. Now the next claim is that the set F is bounded above. Why is the set bounded above, F bounded above?
A is a subset of E and E is bounded above by B.
Correct.
That's
That is also right. And you can also see that F is a subset of, you are right. You're right. But also, another way of seeing the same thing is that F is A intersects closed interval XY. So F is contained in XY, the interval XY. So every element of F is bounded above by Y. Correct? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so either ways, F is a non-empty subset of the real line which is bounded above. So one can apply the completeness property of R and say that what happens? The supremum of F exists. Correct? Yeah. So let me write that down. Since F is a non-empty subset of R, which is bounded above, the supremum of F exists by the completeness property of R. Is that okay? Yeah. Yes? So I'm going to call the supremum of F as alpha. Right? So what is it I can say about alpha? Alpha is bigger than or equal to X. Why? Because X is an element in F and alpha is the supremum of F, right? And also alpha is at most Y. Why? Because the entire set F is contained in the closed interval XY. So the supremum of F will also lie inside this. Correct? Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, very nice. All right. So we just note this and keep it on the side for now. Yeah. So, another way of writing this is that alpha belongs to the closed interval XY. Correct? Yes. Now, here is something. Yeah. Now, alpha is the supremum of F, right? And what is F? F is F is intersection of two sets, right? So alpha being the supremum of F, alpha is a limit point of F, right? So in particular, alpha is a limit point of A. Yeah, so let me write that down. Since alpha belongs to the closure of A, and A and B are separated sets, which means that no point of B is a limit point of A, it follows that alpha cannot belong to B. Yeah. In particular, it implies that the point y, which was in B, alpha cannot be equal to y. Is that okay? Yeah, so I'll just write that down, that alpha is not equal to y, and hence alpha is in fact strictly less than y. Is everything okay so far?
Ma'am, can you repeat the last part?
Okay, so all I'm trying to say is that, remember, alpha is the supremum of f, right? Which means that alpha is a limit point of f, right? Is that okay,
Yes.
Raika?
Yes.
Yes. Now f is a intersect something, right? So it means that, alpha is in the closure of f, the closure of f is contained in the closure of a, and hence alpha is a limit point of a. Yeah, so alpha is in the closure of a. Yeah, and recall that A and B are separated sets, which means that no point of B is a limit point of A. It follows that since alpha is a point in the closure of A, alpha cannot be in B. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now I'm trying to say that it follows that now the point Y is in B. Now alpha is not in B, which means that alpha is not equal to y, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes. So which means that I'm just re-revising this, that alpha is greater than or equal to x, but alpha must be strictly less than y. Alpha cannot be equal to y. That's all I'm trying to conclude from here. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Is that a yes with everybody?
Yes,
ma'am.
Yeah, okay, all right. So it's 3:30 and we had agreed till 3:30, but because of this power outage, so let me ask, how many of you are here? There are 14 students, so is it okay if we continue till 4? Is that okay, or do you have some other commitments? Is this okay with everybody present here? I'll take this silence as yes.
Yes, ma'am. It's okay.
It's okay. All right. You are speaking on behalf of everybody. Okay. Thank you so much for your cooperation. So let me try to finish this. See, what am I trying to do here? See, so let's recall what is our goal. We are trying to prove that the open interval AB is connected. So let's suppose on the contrary, E is not connected, right? So we work with a separation of E. So saying that E is the union of two non-empty separated sets, we also say that A and B form a separation of the set E. Yeah, so we construct a separation of the set E, and where are we? I am heading. Yeah, so I am going to sort of arrive at a contradiction at some point. That's my goal. How do I do that? The only thing I know is that E is an interval. Yeah, so I'm going to use that, and that's all. So let me go ahead. So is this bit okay with everybody? Everybody agrees with me that alpha is bigger than or equal to x, and alpha is strictly less than y. So alpha belongs to closed x and open y, this interval. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, great. All right. So here is another thing. Yeah. So just bear with me. Let's try to follow this line by line, and then I will try to try to sort of put these facts together. Now let's make another observation. What is that? That alpha belongs to, so closed X, open Y, right? That's what I have written here. Now this set is contained in, you know, what is this set? This set is contained in the closed X, closed Y, you know, X, Y interval, and that is sitting inside E. Yeah. So the fact here that I want to use is that alpha is sitting inside E. Yeah. And alpha is, and E is the union A union B, correct? Now we just concluded that alpha cannot be in the set B, and this is a disjoint union, which means that alpha must be in the set A, correct? Yeah. So let me write that down. So since alpha belongs to E and alpha does not belong to B, this implies that alpha belongs to the set A. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, let me just complete the proof. These are very sort of small arguments, but you know what is the global picture is important. Okay, so having done this, now again use the fact that A and B are separated sets, which means that in particular no point of A is a limit point of B. Yeah? Which means that if alpha belongs to A, alpha cannot belong to the closure of B. It follows that alpha does not belong to the closure of B. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay. All right. Now, what does it mean? It means that if alpha does not belong to the closure of B, alpha belongs to the complement of the closure of B. Yes? Yeah, so this is saying alpha must be in the complement of the closure of B. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now, again, by the practice problems, the closure of a set is always closed. So B closure is a closed set, and alpha is in the complement of that, which is an open set in R. Yeah. Is that okay? Which means that, this set, which set? The set R minus the closure of B is an open set in R. Alpha is a point of that set. So there must be an entire neighborhood around alpha, which is contained in this set. Yeah. So let me write that down. So there is some positive real number R such that an entire neighborhood around alpha is contained in the set which is the complement of the closure of B. Yeah, so let me sort of try to draw this little interval alpha minus R and alpha plus R. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So remember, we have this, and also we had also shown, recall that alpha was strictly less than y and bigger than x. This is what we had, right? Is that okay? So far, so good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, the next statement is following. This is, I think, so another thing is following. Yeah. So pick a point alpha naught. You would be wondering where am I going and what are we trying to do? But hold on for another 2 minutes and hopefully it will all make sense to you. So pick a point in the interval alpha plus r here, alpha plus r, such that alpha naught is bigger than alpha but less than y. So in this interval here, you pick a point. So alpha is, so alpha is strictly less than y. Yeah. And I'm going to look at this interval alpha to alpha plus r. Yeah. So you pick one point such that alpha naught is bigger than alpha and less than y. Is that okay? This can always be done.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now, look at the point alpha naught. Where is the point alpha naught? The point alpha naught is in the interval alpha to alpha plus r. Yeah. So the point alpha naught in this picture is somewhere here. So this is my point alpha naught, right? So in particular, alpha naught, belongs to this interval, right? Alpha naught actually belongs to alpha plus r, so it belongs to this interval. So alpha naught in particular is outside B closure. Yes. So recall that by construction, alpha naught is outside the closure of B. It follows that alpha naught cannot be in the set B. Why? Because the closure of the set B contains the set B. B is also always sitting inside the closure of the set B. If alpha naught is not in the larger set, it cannot be in the smaller set. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, is that okay? Now, so this is one observation. The other observation is we show that this point alpha naught is not in A. Yes? So why is that? Let me just finish this argument here. So let, if possible, if alpha naught is a point in A, then since alpha naught, where is alpha naught? Alpha naught is, bigger than alpha, which is bigger than x. Alpha naught belongs to the interval x, y, and alpha naught also belongs to A. Then alpha naught belongs to the set F. Remember that? It follows that alpha naught belongs to the set x, y intersect A, which is exactly the set F. Is that okay? By definition. Maybe I'll write it this way. So alpha naught belongs to the set F, which is, recall, which is the intersection of these two sets. Yeah, so I'm saying if alpha naught is in the set A, then already we know that alpha naught is in the interval x to y. That would imply that alpha naught is in the intersection of both of them, right? But this cannot be the case. Why? Because this would imply that alpha naught is less than or equal to the supremum of f, which is alpha. So this is the supremum of f, correct? But alpha naught by construction is strictly bigger than alpha. So this cannot happen. Which is not possible. Is that okay? This was, all of this was to show that. So this this little thing shows that alpha naught cannot be in A. Is everybody with me up till this point?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, is that okay? Yeah. Okay, now let me just summarize this. So here is a point alpha naught. So please, so to summarize, let's note what is that we have done. To summarize, I have a point alpha naught which is strictly less than y by construction and strictly bigger than x. Yeah. So alpha naught belongs to open interval xy. X and y are both points in the interval E, but alpha naught, let's recall, alpha naught does not belong to A and alpha naught does not belong to B, which means that alpha naught does not belong to the disjoint union of A and B, which is the set E. So let me write that down. And alpha naught does not belong to E. Yeah. I say that this cannot happen. Why? Because E is an interval. I have the point X in E. Yeah. So the point X is in E. The point Y is in E. E is an interval. Yeah. So E is an interval. So I have AB here and alpha naught is some point here. So the fact that E is an interval would imply that alpha naught also belongs to E. But here I have found a point which is not in E. So this cannot happen. This contradicts the fact that E is an interval. I'll just write that down. So this contradicts the fact that E is an interval and hence we are done. So this says that the interval, open interval AB must be a connected set. Is this okay with everybody? All of this jargon, which we did here was to make sure, was to get hold of this point alpha naught with the property that alpha naught lies in some interval xy, which is entirely contained in the set E. You don't even need that. You need that X belongs to the set E, the point Y belongs to the set E. Alpha naught is something which is in between X and Y, but alpha naught does not belong to E. So all of this, little analysis was done to get hold of the point alpha naught. Is this okay with everybody present here? Any questions, please ask.
Is this okay? Everybody with me up till this point?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions?
Okay, so if this bit is okay, so this was example 6, huh? Example 7. You know, I claim that each of the intervals minus infinity to a to infinity, what else? And minus infinity to infinity, which means the entire real line, are all connected subsets of R. So the point is that in example 6, which is open interval AB is connected, you can relax A and B, either one of them or both of them, to be the point at infinite, and the proof runs through exactly fine. Did you use the fact? Please note that nowhere in the proof did we use the fact that A and B, little a and little b, as here in the description of the set E, are real numbers. Exactly the same proof runs through in order to show that the intervals minus infinity to a to infinity, and minus infinity to infinity, they are all connected subsets of R. Is everybody with me up till now? So,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, so I will write that down as example 8. Every interval in R is connected. This is just sort of putting together example 6 and 7. Is that okay? Any questions so far? Okay, if there are no questions, then I think this last theorem, perhaps we can, let's see the following. So there is a complete characterization of connected subsets of R available thanks to this result, which says that, so what we showed was that every interval in R is connected. The converse is also true. Every connected subset of R has to be an interval. Yeah? So a subset E of R, when I said R here, the set of the real line, I mean the set of real numbers with the Euclidean metric, is connected if and only if E is an interval. Yeah? So, you know, I did not formally define an interval. This is a good opportunity. What does it mean to say it's an interval? It means that if X and Y are points of the set E and Z is any intermediary point, then Z also belongs to the set E. Yeah. So every interval in R is connected, and these are the only connected subsets of R. So as far as the proof to this theorem is concerned, we have already done one part of it, that if E is an interval in R, then E is connected. This is that we just saw. All right. So what remains is to show that the other part, conversely, if E, so let's start with E, which is a connected subset of R, we should be able to show that E is an interval. Is that okay? Everybody with me up till this point?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So we show that E is an interval. So suppose not. Yeah. Suppose that E is not an interval. So we try to arrive at a contradiction. Suppose that so saying that E is not an interval means the following. Suppose that E is not an interval, that is, there must be points X and Y in E and some point Z in open interval X and Y such that Z does not belong to E. Correct? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now, now we have to arrive at a contradiction, right? So we have to somehow show contradiction to what? Contradiction to the fact that E is connected. So we have to somehow use little z to somehow assert that E is disconnected. Which means that one has to use Z to show that E is disconnected, meaning that one has to use Z to construct a separation of E. One has to use Z to write E as the union A union B of two separated sets. So somebody would like to help me with this goal?
Ma'am, we can take A is equals to X belongs to real such that X less than Z and B is X greater than Z.
So X belong to real such that X is strictly less than Z and B. So here is a suggestion by Kritika, right? So Kritika, you're right. There is no problem in considering this, but the only thing is that A union B should be the set E. But the way we have defined the set A and B, the sets A and B may spill out of E. So what do? You intersect these sets with E.
Is that okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, seems like a good idea. So instead of taking all x belonging to R, I will just consider all points in E such that this happens. Yeah, everybody agrees with me. Why did I do that? Yeah, so this is exactly what Kritika suggested. So she was suggesting that I consider this interval. All I've done is I have intersected it with E. And why did I do that? I did that because I wanted A and B, union A and B to be the set E, which means that A and B have to be subsets of E. Correct? You know, this is exactly the trick which we used in order to show that the set of rational numbers is not connected. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So let's set A and B as the following, and then evidently the set E is A union B. Yeah. Now, why are these sets? So now I have to show the following, right? I have to claim that A and B form a separation of the set E. The first thing is, why should A and B be non-empty?
Ma'am, because X belongs to A and Y belongs to B.
Correct. You know,
So-
I'll just sort of make a clarification here. You know, there is X which is fixed and this is some running variable. So I'll use something else. You're right. You're right. I'll just, for the sake of clarity, there are too many X floating around here. So what should be the variable here? I'll maybe just erase this. That would be better. I'll just say this. This set notation, I erase that. There is no lack of clarity when I write here. Yeah, there were too many x's floating around. Yeah, so set A as this set, B is this. So we note that the point x belongs to A and the point y belongs to B, and hence A and B are both non-empty, right? And why are A and B separated? Again, you know, the closure of A is contained in the set minus infinity close Z, since A is contained in the set minus infinity to open Z, and the closure of the set B is contained in the following set. So evidently, no point of A is a limit point of B, and no point of B is a limit point of A, and hence A and B are separated. And this is, as I said, exactly the same argument which we used to prove that the set of rational numbers is disconnected, which means that this shows that A and B form a separation of the set E, which implies that the set E is not connected or the set E is disconnected, which is a contradiction. Yeah, is that okay? Yeah. Any questions? Okay, so if there are no further questions, then I will stop this recording for now.